Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So Tony Yoka defeats Djeko by a 12th round stoppage. Now I have to admit, going into this fight I was expecting a lot more from Tony Yoka, quite frankly. Obviously in Tony Yoka's last fight against Christian Hammer, yeah, he clearly won that fight, but it really wasn't anything impressive. Christian Hammer took him the distance, and all in all it was a really messy fight where Tony Yoka at times looked pretty naive against the crafty Christian Hammer. And going into this fight I was expecting a showcase performance, you know, basically to try and get back on track and regain that momentum. Ultimately that never really happened in this fight. His opponent, Djeko, he was actually a guy coming up from cruiserweight, believe it or not. When you see him in the ring, you would never believe that guy was a former cruiserweight. He was a pretty big dude, you know, similar height to Tony Yoka. The guy never looked like a former cruiserweight, to be honest, but regardless, you know, he was coming up in weight, and you would expect a guy like Tony Yoka to get rid of Djeko in impressive fashion. But that never really happened. You know, it took Tony Yoka 12 rounds to get the stoppage in this fight. And yeah, Djeko really was in there. He was pretty crafty, you know, relatively defensively responsible. He was very economical with his work. He was basically trying to time Tony Yoka with one perfect shot, whether it be with a left hook or his straight right hands. But yeah, he really wasn't forcing any sort of pace on Tony Yoka, and Yoka basically won every single round in this fight. The only round, in my opinion, that was close was the first round, where both guys were fencing with the jab. But after that, Djeko, he basically gave up a lot of ground. He was sitting on the ropes for large portions of this fight. And, you know, Tony Yoka was basically dictating with that jab behind the high guard. He was landing some nice overhand rights as well, some good left hooks to the body. You know, Tony Yoka really was the only guy attempting to fight in there for a lot of these rounds, and, you know, he won basically every round in this fight. Yoka, he displayed a pretty good jab, a decent high guard, solid basic fundamentals, but ultimately there was nothing really there from Tony Yoka that made you go wow. He did all of the basics well, as you would expect from an Olympian, but you never really saw that blazing hand speed or crazy power or anything like that. There wasn't really any dynamic elements to this performance from Tony Yoka. He just stuck behind the high guard, the jab, and he slowly broke his man down. And that's all well and good, but, you know, when you're touted as an elite level prospect, I would expect you to get this sort of opponent out a lot quicker than he did. And maybe going forwards, Tony Yoka's power will be questioned as he steps up the levels. His punches to me just don't really seem to have that oomph behind them. His jab is nice and snappy actually, but apart from that, his power shots to me don't look like they've got enough mustard on them, in all honesty. But yeah, Tony Yoka, I mean, solid technical boxer, does all of the basics well, but he just failed to wow me in this fight, you know, and he's done that in his last two fights now against Christian Hammer and Djeko. But yeah, the fight basically played out. Djeko was basically, he was pretty much trying to survive, and he would try and throw the odd power shot here and there to try and catch Tony Yoka slipping. None of those shots from Djeko were really landing, and it was Tony Yoka who was maintaining the jab, looking for power shots. He was basically winning all of the rounds. To Tony Yoka's credit, in the last 2-3 rounds, he actually did start to go through the gears. He was starting to get a bit more aggressive, and he was certainly pushing for the knockout, and he got that in round 12. You know, round 11 was quite a rough round for Djeko. Tony Yoka landed several hard right hands as Djeko was backing up to the ropes. And yeah, round 11 was basically the beginning of the end for Djeko. And in round 12, that's when the stoppage occurred. Tony Yoka forcing the pace, being aggressive. He actually forced Djeko back into the corner. He landed a couple of nice right hands, and he followed up with a jab, and then basically Djeko turned his back to indicate that he wanted no more. Looking at his eye looked badly damaged. Maybe his orbital bone went. It was basically a similar stoppage to Daniel Dubois against Joe Joyce, when Dubois basically took a knee and said he wanted no more. It was a similar stoppage, you know. Djeko turned his back, you know, and basically said he wanted no more, and you could see his eye was badly damaged. So, yeah, eventually Tony Yoka gets the stoppage, but didn't really look all that impressive doing it in my opinion. Solid prospect, solid fighter, but he's not one of those prospects where I would say this guy's definitely going to be a world champion, or I can see him achieving great things in the division. But yeah, all in all, he got the job done. He got some rounds in, and we'll see where he goes next. He actually won the EBU European Union title in this fight. That's basically the lesser version of a European title. I would like to see Tony Yoka maybe try and fight for that full title in his next fight, the full European title. I think that would be a good look for him. You know, they was actually talking about him fighting the fellow prospect Peter Milas from Croatia. I think that would be a good fight for Tony Yoka at this stage. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not ruling out Tony Yoka. He's clearly got some ability. He's got some good straight punches, nice punch technique, good high guard. He does the basics well, but you don't really see that X factor there with Tony Yoka. At least I don't personally, but certainly not ruling him out. I still see him as a good prospect, but not one of the guys who I'm really like sold on basically. But yeah, share your thoughts below. What did you make of Tony Yoka in this fight? Did you think he performed well, or like me, were you expecting a lot more? Share your thoughts below. It's Beanie Guy Delboy. Peace.